In the heart of the deadly cold forests of Siberia, in the darkness of the night, when the wind howls and the sound of the rustling of frozen branches echoes in the silence of the forest, in the midst of this frozen land, a faint light from a wooden cabin can be seen somewhere deep in the forest. Inside the cabin, a lone man sits by the stove, warming his hands over the fire. "Oh, you have come all the way here. It's been a long time." This man's name is Samol. He is the man who has survived for 20 years in this cursed forest, without technology, without any connection to the world, all alone, with only the wolves and bears. Today, we want to learn more about the Siuri forests and explore the story of the man who lived in these forests for 20 years. But before we dive into this strange tale, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, and turn on the notification bell. In fact, the Siberian forests are among the scariest and most mysterious places on Earth. These forests are not just ordinary forests, with typical dangers like encountering wild animals or poisonous plants. This is considered one of the coldest regions in the world, where temperatures in winter can drop to minus 70 degrees Celsius. In such cold, a small mistake means death. But what makes this forest even more terrifying are reports of strange disappearances, unknown creatures, and terrifying sounds among the frozen trees. Some say that this forest is haunted, while others believe that unknown species of animals live here. Even some of the local natives believe that this forest is a gateway to another world. In any case, the Siberian forests are full of legends and strange mysteries. One of the most famous of these stories is the legend of the Shadow Man. The local natives believe that invisible creatures live in this forest. They can move without leaving any trace or footprint behind. Some say that these creatures are the spirits of ancient hunters who perished in the Siberian cold. However, another theory points to something more scientific. In recent years, scientists have discovered that some areas of this forest have strange and unusual magnetic fields. Some say that these fields can cause unusual perceptions and feelings in people who enter this area. Now let's move on to the story of a man named Samuel who has been living in these forests for 20 years. Despite the fact that living in the Siberian forest is very difficult, Samuel has managed to cope with the challenges of this area and survive. It's interesting to know that Samuel lives in a small wooden cabin that he built himself, without electricity, without internet, without any amenities. On the other hand, the only creatures Samuel occasionally sees are wolves and bears that sometimes pass by his cabin. He used natural materials to build his cabin and constructed it with logs from the forest. To keep the cabin warm, he insulated it with wool, but he used cellophane for the windows. Because cellophane is not a good insulator, the house doesn't stay warm very well. He says that initially he came here just for the peace and to escape civilization, but gradually he realized that living in this jungle is something beyond an ordinary experience. He tells stories of strange noises at night, shadows moving between the trees, and a mysterious feeling as if he's constantly being watched. Samuel uses his own unique methods to survive in these harsh conditions. Every morning when he wakes up to keep himself entertained, he listens to the news through a radio with self-made batteries. Then he has to think about gathering firewood and preparing food. He is forced to go into the forest several times a day to collect woods. At night, he must constantly keep his wood stove burning, otherwise he will freeze in his sleep. He says that a few times when he was very tired and fell asleep, he woke up in the morning with all his hair frozen. He says the weather here is very harsh and unforgiving. Breathing in this low temperature is like having icy needles pierce your lungs. However, with physical activity and work, one can keep themselves warm. Of course, aside from the cold, living in such a forest has its own specific dangers. When the weather warms up and the forest fruits start to grow, and the bears wake up from hibernation, this can pose dangers for Samuel. However, he says that even though he sees a lot of bears, it seems they have enough food and don't bother him. The nearest village to Samuel is located 30 kilometers away. That's why he can't easily go shopping and has to provide his own food. He does this by setting traps for rabbits, which isn't always successful. That's why when his food supply runs low, he is forced to take a 5-hour walk to the village, which is only possible in spring and summer. Therefore, Samuel, considering his food supply, only eats once or twice a day. It's interesting to know that even though Samuel's food supply is limited, he is very kind and doesn't ignore the animals around him, always sharing some of his food with them. One advantage of Samuel's living place is that it acts as a natural refrigerator, so he doesn't need a freezer to keep his food frozen. His only challenge is that he has to hide his provisions somewhere so that the bears don't find them. On the other hand, Samuel bakes traditional bread himself using water, flour, and baking soda. For New Year's Eve, he also makes pancakes with fried meat pie. However, obtaining water is another challenge for Samuel. He has to go to the lake to collect ice after dawn and before sunset, because the lake ice is cleaner and healthier than snow. He says that when the ice melts, its impurities disappear, resulting in clean water. Now, you might find it interesting to know what Samuel does when he catches a cold. He cures himself with natural remedies. For example, he drinks pine needle tea or places fresh pine tree leaves in warm water to make an infusion, which he drinks after 2 hours. Samuel says this remedy is excellent and cures fever and cough, making you feel great the next day. Samuel has gone through many hardships. He lost his family in childhood, which led him to decide to live alone in the forest. However, even in the toughest living conditions, he says, "I love this place more than anywhere else on earth. I have found true peace here and have no desire to leave." But is this really the only reason he's staying in this forest, or is there something he's not telling us? What do you think? Why has Samuel really stayed in the heart of this hell? Is he just a nature lover, or has he seen something he doesn't want to tell anyone about? Be sure to write to us in the comments. Now that we've reached the end of the video, it's better to have a conclusion from this story. The Siberian forests are some of the most terrifying and mysterious places on Earth, which makes these forests largely uninhabitable. These forests are full of mysteries and undiscovered secrets, but today's story about Samuel is just one of the thousands of strange stories that have happened in this area. It's true that we may never understand what secrets are truly hidden in this dense forest. But one thing is certain, the world is still full of unknowns, full of areas that science still doesn't have a complete explanation for. Therefore, maybe we should trust the legends. Some of these legends might be true.